We've all been there. We have one specific topic for university paper, and you think, I just read a couple of foundational texts for it. Fast forward to Friday, I've read everything from clinical studies on brain lesions to 16th century horror. From the skeptical challenge of Kripke to Freud's clinical take on aphasia, here's everything I read this week: the good, the bad, and the deeply confusing. I started the week with hopes for some Gothic atmosphere. I picked up Thomas Naschet's The Terror of the Night. The cover text promised me demonic horrors, the exploration of the supernatural, and early modern nightmares. I was ready for ghosts. Instead, I was disappointed. It's essentially a moralizing and religious text. Naschet doesn't look for demons in the shadows, instead he looks for them in sins. It's more about the psychology of a guilty conscience instead of actual folk horror. I felt a bit cheated by the marketing. Thursday was when the real work for my paper began. If you're touching Wittgenstein's philosophical investigations, eventually at some point you have to deal with Kripke. I actually mentioned this book in my last video last week, where I mentioned that I have read a few sections of it, but this week I decided to revisit it and read it back to back. Kripke presents what's called the skeptical paradox. It's the idea that there's no fact that we are following a specific rule. How do I know I mean the same thing when I say plus as I meant yesterday? I have to say I agree with his solution to the skeptical argument. It's the idea that there is no inherent meaning and that the social practice gives the rules its meaning, essentially. We follow rules because we are part of a community that agrees on these rules. Midweek I took a detour into the relationship between language philosophy and psychoanalysis when reading Leon Bornstein's Freud and Wittgenstein. I was looking for something specific, comparing their two understandings of human nature. To be honest, I didn't get much data for my actual thesis. It's one of those books that is brilliant, but perhaps it wasn't the right time. However, the comparison of their language understanding was fascinating. It was a nice intellectual exercise, even though this book will not end up in my paper. Because Bornstein kept referencing it, I felt compelled to read Freud's Jenseits des Lustprinzip. This was a wild ride. It's Freud at his most scientific and speculative. I was surprisingly gripped by the sections on longevity and microorganisms. But the real breakthrough was my understanding of the death drive. I think I finally understand it a bit better. It was a nice addition to the book of Bornstein and seeing where he gets his points from. Getting back into linguistics, I picked up Jakobson's Fundamentals of Language again. I had skimmed parts of it before for a Lacan reading group and actually last week. In the Lacan reading group we actually read it in regards to metaphors. I tried to read the first part of this book this week and I struggled. It's very technical and unless you're very into phonological theory, it's heavy. The second part remains incredible, exploring how language functions through two axes. But once again I realized I couldn't use it for my current paper. I rounded off the week by looking at when language actually breaks. I read Freud's Zur Auffassung der Aphasie. It's incredibly dry. I admit a lot of it went actually over my head. However, it was vital for my understanding of how language works or fails when the brain is damaged. I actually took away a few solid points for my Wittgenstein paper. So where does that leave me? After a week of reading everything from ghosts to brain lesions, I stumbled upon the work of Gurwitsch. His work on phenomenology and Gestalt theory feels like the missing link I need to bridge the actual experience of thinking and Wittgenstein's theory. So that's the plan for next week. Once I tackled Gurwitsch, I can finally sit down and write this paper. If you ever spend a whole week reading everything except what you're supposed to, let me know in the comments. See you in the next one.